still perfect. You're up to $400. Let's see if you can make it 500. Proving great minds think alike, a 1942 novel by Nobel winner Albert Camus and a 1977 Grammy-winning album by Billy Joel share what name?
1970, what year?
1977.
So you have Piano Man?
1942 novel by Albert Camus.
I might want to
Still have both your shout-outs.
social media shout out.
All right, a social media shout-out. Hey everybody, Ben Bailey here, coming at you live from the Cash Cab with some desperate contestants in the back. By the way, everybody, I don't know if you noticed, but Scott Bakula is here today.
Hello, everybody.
Unbelievable.
We need help. Please.
All right, here we go. Proving great minds think alike, a 1942 novel by Nobel-winning author Albert Camus and a 1977 Grammy-winning album by Billy Joel both share what name? All right, looks like some answers are starting to come up, so have a look, guys. 30 seconds.
They're just saying I love Cash Cab.
I was the guy from Quantum Leap,
Oh, the stranger?
probably being Camus, but
Yeah,
Stranger
two bucks
again.
at it.
Stranger?
Yeah.
Quantum Leap is not the answer.
The
Scott Bakula rocks. That's
To
what he
me.
said.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
That's not the answer, though.
Well, so what's your answer, guys?
The Stranger.
Yes, the Stranger! For another $100.
All new Cash Cab.
Ben, that just made me... The Stranger, come
The
on,
Stranger,
Scott Bakula,
yeah,
The
yeah.
Stranger.
I love that someone typed Piano Man.
I think just to screw with it.
It was originally a novel by Albert Camus.
He didn't
Piano
start the
Man.
fire. Do you think that would have confused him as well? Was he just playing it up for the purpose of drama, or did he not know?
Don't know. I think maybe he didn't know. It's a high-pressure situation.
That's true.
When
It's
you're
true.
in the Cash Cab, it's different
Which
than
premieres,
just sitting. Well,
tonight?
here is too, I guess.
On Discovery, right?
Premieres tonight,
Back.
10 o'clock. The new episodes of Cash Cab.
How
start.
did that happen?
Well, I don't know, people just kind of wanted it to come back. The whole time we were off, pretty much every day, someone was like, "Why aren't you doing Cash Cab anymore?"
And you're
And
like,
I was always
don't
like,
want-
I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that, you know? And honestly, nobody ever really had a good answer. We never really knew why it was off, you know, why we ever stopped.
Did you miss doing
So-
it while it was off?
I did and I didn't. It's, you know, it's not the easiest job in the world to drive a cab and host a show at the same time. And by the time we stopped originally, we had done like 400 plus episodes, and it was like, okay, we could take a break for a while. If I don't have to spend my days in traffic for a little while, that'd be fine, you know?
How many episodes did you normally shoot in a day when you were, you know, in its heyday?
Well, we would shoot, we would go by number of games. We would try to get 5 or 6 good games in, which would be more than enough for an episode if we could use them all. But, you know, we obviously, you would know, we don't always use everything that we shoot. You can't, so... We were pretty good, though. We use about 2/3 of what we shoot. So we might, on a good day, we might get 4 good games, which is enough for one episode.
And that's
And
like
then-
2/3 of people that you pick up, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's probably, I mean, it might be a little more than that, even. It got easier when people knew the show,
Right.
you know? When we first started, people were just like, what?
Just get
Like-
me to work.
Just like, could you shut that music off? I had a lot of people say that. Could you please turn that music down? It's ridiculously loud. I'm like, yeah, this is what I listen to. This is my leisure time enjoyment music. Is like 8 seconds of heavy trumpet. But then later, as people knew the show, it got a lot easier.
Later,
people
I mean-
wanted to play, and they got in. They knew the rules, and it was like it just got much easier to shoot the show.
Like, when was the premiere of the show?
I think it was August of 2005.
August of 2005. So I moved to New York in 2007, I think.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure, or like 2006, 2007. And when I moved to New York, I remember family members all the time being like, "You getting a Cash Cab yet? You getting a cash?" It was just like everybody around America knew it. It became like the sort of New York City reference for everybody around America.
Yeah, it really, you know, we didn't know what it was going to be. Obviously, you never know, you know, but the first couple of weeks were really rough. And then somewhere in the third week, I think, we just had this amazing game. The game itself just sort of came together. Not that particular game, but the way the game flowed just sort of fell together. And we had these 2 ladies. We drove them from like Union Square just down somewhere on the Lower East Side. And it was a real cliffhanger of a game. And we all found ourselves caught up in the game, you know, and that hadn't happened before that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we were like, you know what, this might be something this could work. This could really be something good, you know? And then so we tried to mimic that and find that same space, if you will, for the rest of that shoot. And then, I don't know, 6 months later, people started to, when I went out to get coffee or whatever, people started to be like, murmur, 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 murmur. And I'm like, I think people might be recognizing me from that television show. And then, and then all of a sudden it was like everybody knew, which was so weird for me. It was great, but it's weird.
It's one of those shows that once you realize, like you're watching, you're like, of course this is a show. Why?
Right.
Why is this just happening right? And this is like one of those brilliant ideas that feels like anybody could come up with them, but only one person did, you know?
Seemed ridiculous up until the time that it happened. It was like, what? Why? No. When I got the info about the audition, I was
What
like...
was your audition like? Did you have to drive a cab or...
No,
it
was just in a room. But they set up the chairs like... Yeah, I did. I had to sit in a chair like this and pretend I was driving, and, you know, the producers were behind me.
Like, really pretend you're driving. You're going to be driving on camera. We need to get a sense of the driving.
I just started screaming and yelling, shaking my fists at people.
So then the producers, what, they got it? They were like in the fake car with you, and they were
they were sitting in chairs. We had it lined up like it was, you know, the seats were lined up like it was a minivan, and we just pretended to do the game there in the office.
And they wanted to see sort of how you responded to stuff getting thrown at you. Was it like seeing how
I
you
guess.
improvised?
Yeah, but they knew I could drive. Like when I started doing stand-up comedy, I was a limo driver, and so like I would drive people in from Jersey and like drop them off at a museum or at a show or at a dinner, and then I would go and do my stand-up shows, and then I'd pick them up and, you know, and then go back to work. So I always had a limo and a suit, so everybody knew that I had been a limo driver. So when they went around to the comedy clubs looking for somebody to host Cash Cab, everybody was like, "Oh, well, you should bring Ben Bailey in. He is a driver," you know, because that was obviously their big concern. Can someone host the show while they're driving a car?
Was it difficult at first, hosting and driving?
Yeah.
And it's still, I bet
it's still difficult. Now is like more of a Zen thing for me. Like, it's all I need to do is remember that I'm not just driving a cab and sitting in traffic. I'm actually making a TV show. But it's easy to forget that and get caught up in the traffic because it's stressful, you know. But
you ever get into an accident?
No. I've
never gotten into an accident?
No, I never hit anybody or anything, and no one ever hit me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Come close, though?
Several close calls. There's a few that every time someone asks me that question, I remember a couple. I remember a guy on a BMX bike who almost ended his life on Broadway one day. I was cruising down Broadway, and there was no traffic anywhere. And just as I was like, wow, you never see a street so open like this, he just shot right out on a cross street somewhere like 17th, maybe, right in front of me, and it was just too late.
And that has
there was
nothing to do
nothing
with
I could have done.
Hosting a game show, that's just
But
traffic.
we missed him. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And it could have happened to anybody driving down that street.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a green light. He shouldn't have been doing what he was doing, but, you know, just barely missed him. Another time, we were on 10th Avenue heading uptown, obviously, and I see the lights changing and everybody's starting to roll. There's a whole bunch of cabs lined up, and here comes a guy delivering food on a bike, and the lights are already changing, and we're starting to move, and he's just coming into the intersection. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this isn't going to work. This guy's not going to make it. But it's all happening already, and I'm just slowly rolling, and he just gets past me, and bam, the cab next to me just nails him. The hood hits the side of his bike, and he flips up over the hood, down the other side, and then everything's stopped, and everyone's just like waiting. He just jumps up and grabs the food and jumps back on his bike and rides away.
I love that the waiting, though, is like everyone's waiting to, like, one, see if he's okay, but two, see if they can go about the rest of their day.
Yeah.
Like,
is this
that's the wait.
How much is this gonna slow us down?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What
I
am
feel
I
for that guy, but
what am I
I
gonna
don't have a lot
to do
of time.
here?
Yeah, that's so New York, right? That's like the signs on the subway, like garbage on tracks causes fires. And fires cause delays. You'd think the fire would be enough, but no. Is it going to make me late or not? That's
How
what
does
matters
this affect
to me.
me, though,
Yeah, totally.
guys? So you get this job. So you get this job, and do you remember? Because in the sort of the reboot of the show, if you want to call it that, bringing the show
Yeah,
back.
it's the reboot. Let's
you have
call it that.
you have celebrities a lot of the time in the cabs with you, but
We do, yeah.
Prior to celebrities, do you remember a favorite guest that you picked up in the last run of the show? Someone that you just loved having in the cab so much, or thought was just specific and weird?
Well, there's so many people. I mean, we put out 408 episodes, I think. Yeah. So that's 3 games per episode plus what we didn't use. So it's like 2,500 games or something. So there's a lot of people I liked, and there's a lot less people that I didn't really like.
Yeah.
There's only a few that I was ever rooting against in the front. I'm like, wow, I hope these guys lose.
The time you picked up David Koch, you were like, man, I hope you don't win.
Get this guy out of here. I don't know. I always liked the people who were just genuine and like having fun and into it. And some people are too cool for it. They would get in and they're like, I'm like, you're in the cash cab. They're like, yeah, okay. All right, yeah, I guess I have time, Although I love to turn those people too. And then so by the end of the game, they're so caught up in it that they forgot that they're trying to be cool, But I don't know, there's a lot of fun people. Yeah, I guess I could do it. I don't know. Some people are like, well, who are other people doing it? Is everyone like, just make a choice. Just play the game. How many times is this going to happen to you in your life that you're in a cab and you get to be on a TV show?
So what celebrities did you have on Cash Cab?
I think episode 1 tonight is Matthew Perry.
Wow.
Which was really fun. The people's heads nearly exploded when he jumped in the cab with them. They're just like, oh my God, it's Chandler. Although don't say that, I don't think he would like that. But it was really fun. He was. I think he's the first episode. We had Brooke Shields is in one of them. Scott Bakula, as we saw, who had a huge following. Like I remember Quantum Leap, and I love that show. But we couldn't figure out what it was that like gave him this huge following. Like his that video that we just watched had like I think 300,000 views or something like that. I might be wrong about that, but it was a very large number, and it's because he was a captain on a Star Trek series.
Not because of
and
Quantum
they're
Leap.
like super loyal. I guess it's both, but it's like Trekkies are loyal fans. They loved him. They were so excited. But so he was great, and it was like 105 that day. I think it was in July. It was 105 degrees out, and the cab overheated in the game, so it was blowing hot air. So it was like 120 in the cab while we're shooting that, and he was such a great sport about it. Like I was like, how are you not sweating? Like I was a mess. He was fine. But so then who else we had? Jeff Garlin, Susie Essman. Gilbert,
together?
Gilbert
Not together.
Gottfried. No, not together. No, and I don't know if that's a thing, but no, they were separate and both really fun. Gilbert Gottfried was great. Dave Foley was really good.
Gottfried's the best.
He was so funny, man. Yeah. I don't think he answered a single question, but everyone was laughing the entire time.
I've interviewed Gilbert Gottfried so many, like a number of times now, and every time it's just the juxtaposition between who he is in the green room and when he turns it on after. There's still that sweetness, but he is literally like the most gentle, sweet person.
Yeah.
And then when the voice
like,
kicks in,
you're worried about him. He's so like he's almost frail.
oh hello.
And then cameras are on, and he tears you to shreds, and everyone else. Yeah.
Screaming profanities.
Yeah, that's Gilbert. Yeah.
You've been doing stand-up now for how long? How long were you doing stand-up before you got Cash
A
Cab?
long time, longer than I would care to admit. I was doing stand-up for 10 or 11 years before Cash Cab. Wow. So now I'm officially old. I'm 24 years into stand-up, I think.
Do you still love doing it?
I do, absolutely, yeah. More than ever. It's better than it's ever been,
Why is that?
Because I'm better at it, I think, and because I understand it more, and it's coming from a better place.
Do you think also because you're like a little bit older, great stand-up also comes from good wisdom at times and having a little bit
absolutely.
of knowledge?
It definitely has to do with me being older. Like, when you start doing stand-up, or at least for me, there's so many people doing it now that I don't know. There's got to be a lot of different motivations, but way back when, it was only for people who were emotionally damaged.
Were you emotionally damaged?
Developed humor as a coping mechanism. Absolutely. I think everyone is to some degree, but so that's kind of where I was coming from early on, even if I didn't know it. And now it's like I'm much more laid back, and it's just more fun than it used to be. there's also not the desperation of, am I going to make it? Do I get to do this for my career? Does it,
Now you just get to do it. Now you just are doing it.
I don't take that part for granted, but it's kind of there, so I can just enjoy it more and just create whatever comes, you know.
If anybody wants to see him doing it, he's going to be at Caroline's on Broadway between the 14th and the 16th of this month. It's going to be great.
Yeah, next, not this weekend, one after.
Right, absolutely. And what are some of your favorite venues outside of Caroline's on Broadway, obviously? So
Well, there's so many good ones. I like little theaters right now. Kind of a lot of smaller towns have these theaters that often weren't being used for a long time, and now they've just been renovated and brought back in. And I love those gigs. They're super fun.
How have you found your material as a stand-up has changed since you got older, outside of just getting more comfortable?
It's not that different, really. I write about whatever hits me, whatever I'm inspired to write about. You know. I can't make myself write about something, so. And then basically what I do is I get an idea, and then it's like I need to write that down or keep track of that somewhere, and then work it and hone it until it always ends up being this really long, kind of weird, weird thing. But that's kind of always been my thing. Well, maybe not always. In the beginning, you don't really know what you're doing. You're kind of feeling your way through.
Was it difficult going from doing stand-up for 10 or 11 years and then being a game show host, which requires a different sort of improvisational sensibility in the sense that, yeah, you're cracking jokes, but this is also a show for families and a kind of a warm show. And if you're, working the Comedy Store every night and then hanging out with comedians in the back, like your brain, your muscles are not necessarily in tune with the warmest sense of humor.
It's true, yeah, and it was an adjustment. I mean, if you hang out with comedians, you lose your filter. You lose sense of what is something you're not supposed to say.
Because
everyone it's all about what's funny, and it doesn't really matter.
And it's really hard to make a comedian laugh we laugh at what surprises us, and no one's,
right.
And usually shock is like what surprise,
Yeah, that's true. And while that's not my writing, I don't do shock value kind of stuff. It's more about, it's like a little puzzle or like a weird little mystery unfolding, But it was a shift for sure to go from working in clubs in the middle of the night to hosting a show that's a family show was not as difficult as then trying to do the opposite, which is do a stand-up show for people who are fans of Cash Cab. Because they would then come out and go, oh, the Cash Cab guy's here, let's go see him. And then they come out and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that.
Cover your ears, Billy.
Yeah, earmuffs. But so that was a big adjustment. I think that was harder because stand-up was what it was already, and then it changed.
So you had to change to sort of not do, I'm sure you do some, but not do that as much blue humor.
Yeah, I tried to be a little bit cleaner. They wanted me to talk about the show. And I used to have this delivery where I talked long and slow, and I always had one eyebrow up. I had this bit about filling out a job application where you put your name in the wrong box, and then I have to tell the guy that I live on Ben Bailey Boulevard. And it's like this very long, intricate thing, and it was delivered in this very long, slow moment, just like that. And so if I did that, and people who knew my stand-up knew me for that, but Cash Cab fans would come out and be like, why is he talking like that? Right. What is he doing? So I had to sort of, adapt, which ended up being good for me because it broadened my performances a lot. But
it challenged you,
It did. It absolutely did. It was tough. It was really hard. No one had any sympathy. Like, oh, stand-up's so much harder now that I have a successful TV show. Everyone's like, oh, shut up. You and your champagne problems, But it was difficult to navigate.
Where are you now, sort of with all of it and putting it all of it together? 5 years after having, the show has been gone for 5 years, you're coming back. But how has your stand-up changed in the 5 years that you haven't had Cash Cab?
I think it changed. The Cash Cab coming along just sort of changed the line that I was on. Right. But I still like to write about the same type of things. I'm just much more comfortable in it now, and I'm not worried about what people might think. For a while, I was very worried that Cash Cab fans would come out and not like my stand-up and not come back. But now I have enough of a stand-up audience that I feel comfortable just doing what I'm inspired to do.
Right.
So
Like, and if like one Cash Cab fan comes in and is like, I don't like this, you're like, that's okay.
yeah, like that's all right. You don't have to
Go watch Cash Cab.
Yeah, don't come out next
I'll
time.
get your money some way, don't worry.
Yeah, I've got you. I know you're going to be watching tomorrow night anyway. Yeah.
Let's get some questions from the audience.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
I read somewhere that you got a job as a bouncer at a comedy club by bumming off a cigarette on a parking lot.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, is that how the comedy thing started? And if you weren't in the parking lot, where do you see yourself being?
I don't know. Yeah, that is totally true. I moved to LA. I wanted to get into film. I wanted to work in film. I always loved movies, and I was kind of lost up to that point in my life. And I was like, you know what? Movies is what I want to be working in. Film. I'm gonna move to California. I'm gonna get a job at a hotel, which I had been doing, and I'm gonna try to pursue some sort of career in film. Couldn't get a job at a hotel in LA to save my life. Even though I worked at what was considered the nicest hotel in the state of New Jersey, that doesn't really carry any weight in Los Angeles, believe it or not. So I couldn't get a job. And I came out of a failed interview at what was called the Riot Hyatt back then, because it had this reputation where all these like rock stars stayed there and trashed the place. And there was a bunch of guys standing in a parking lot next door, which turned out to be the Comedy Store. And I started chatting with those guys, and pretty soon I had a job answering the phones at the club, working as a bouncer one night, answering the phones another night. I worked as a bartender in the front bar. And then they give you a couple of drink tickets at the end of your shift so that maybe everyone will stay and watch the show to pad the audience or whatever. So I started watching guys, and I was like, this is me, you know? I was like, this is what I do. What am I doing sitting here watching, you know? And I started telling a story in the green room, which is where I sat to answer the phone. So there's other comics in there, but I was sitting there at my desk, and I started telling this kind of crazy story of how I ended up out there. And I had a little bit of a crowd. Like the people in the green room, I had an audience, and they were laughing and everything. And so this guy thought I was a comedian and asked me to do his show. I'm going to put you on my show on Saturday. And I was like, I said no. I was terrified. I was like, awesome. And I said, no. I was so scared, and I left. Luckily, he gave me his card, and I called him back the next day, and I was like, yeah, I think I want to try it. And
How'd it go?
It was pretty good. You know, for a first time, it was pretty good. I got a laugh with the first thing I said.
What was that?
Enough. I said I was pretty nervous coming up here, but then I remembered from the Brady Bunch that I should just picture all of you in your underwear, and that was a reference people got back at that time. And then I said to this very large man, you look great in those panties, because I was picturing everyone in their underwear, and I got a big laugh with it. And the rest of the show was not as good as that, but the second that happened, as soon as I got a laugh, I was like, golden. This is where I live. This is what I do. This is my life now.
Well, Ben, we're excited to have Cash Cab back, man.
Thank
It's
you.
on
Thank
tonight
you, man.
on Discovery, and you will be at Caroline's on Broadway, December
Yep.
14th through the 16th.
Yep.
Right?
Yep,
Ben Bailey, everybody.
absolutely.
Give him a round of applause.
Thanks, you guys.